My sister tried to take the apartment our grandmother left me. Grandmother's own words from beyond the grave stopped her. My grandmother passed away 8 months ago. She was 84 years old, and until the day she died, her mind was sharp as a tack. She remembered every birthday, every anniversary, every small kindness and every slight. She had opinions about politics, about the neighbors, about the declining quality of bread at her favorite bakery. She could beat me at chess, argue philosophy, and make soup that tasted like childhood itself. She was my anchor. The one person in my family who truly understood me, who believed in me when I was figuring out who I wanted to become. While others in the family had complicated relationships with her, my mother and grandmother rarely spoke after some falling out before I was born. My bond with her was simple and deep, uncomplicated in the way that love should be. I visited her every Sunday for 15 years. Not out of obligation. Not for any ulterior motive. I visited because those Sundays were the best part of my week. I learned to cook her recipes, the borscht with its precise ratio of beets and cabbage, the dumplings she shaped with such practiced ease, the honey cake that required 3 hours of patience. I listened to her stories about the war, about my grandfather who died before I was born, about building a life in a new country with nothing but determination and each other. When she got sick, I was there. When she couldn't make it to the grocery store anymore, I brought groceries. When the technology confused her, the new phone, the confusing remote control, I walked her through it again and again, never impatient. When she died, I was holding her hand. The apartment she left me wasn't just property. It was her final gift, her way of saying, "You mattered." The will. The inheritance was straightforward, or so I thought. My grandmother's will was clear, drafted by a lawyer who specialized in estate planning, witnessed by 2 independent parties, notarized, and filed properly. It was, in legal terms, bulletproof. The apartment, a modest 2-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, worth approximately $165,000, went to me. Her savings, about $15,000, were divided among various grandchildren, including my sister. Some personal items, jewelry, photographs, china, were distributed among family members according to grandmother's specific wishes. The antique samovar went to my cousin who always admired it. The embroidered tablecloths went to my aunt. The photo albums were divided thoughtfully. Grandmother made these decisions while fully competent, 2 years before her death. She updated the will annually, meeting with her lawyer each time to confirm her wishes, to make small adjustments, to ensure everything reflected her current intentions. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was surprised upon anyone. My sister knew she wasn't getting the apartment. She had known for at least a year. Grandmother had told her directly, though in her characteristic gentle way. My sister just didn't accept it. The difference. I need to explain something about my relationship with my grandmother and my sister's relationship with her, because it matters. It matters for understanding what came next. My sister is 31, 2 years older than me. Growing up, we weren't close, but we weren't enemies either. We moved in different circles, had different interests, developed different values. She went into sales, I went into teaching. She lived her life, I lived mine. Her relationship with our grandmother was cordial but distant. She visited occasionally, maybe 4 or 5 times a year, and those visits were always brief. An hour, maybe 2. And there was usually a reason for the visit beyond just wanting to see grandmother. A request for money to help with a car repair. A question about whether grandmother could co-sign on a lease. A need for grandmother to watch her dog while she went on vacation. I don't say this to be cruel. I say it because grandmother noticed. She noticed everything. Once, after my sister left from a particularly short visit, barely 45 minutes, mostly spent asking about whether grandmother might help with a deposit for a new apartment, grandmother turned to me and said something I've never forgotten. "Your sister loves me when she needs me. You love me when I need you. That's the difference." I didn't know what to say. It felt disloyal to agree, but it felt dishonest to argue. So I just squeezed her hand and changed the subject to what we should make for dinner. Grandmother called me her Sunday boy. It was a term of endearment, a recognition of our standing date, our unbroken tradition. I found out later it annoyed some family members, particularly my sister, who didn't put in the same time and felt judged by the nickname's implicit comparison. The will reading. At the will reading, my sister's face said everything. The lawyer read through the various bequests methodically, the savings divided among grandchildren, the personal items assigned by name. My sister nodded along, her expression neutral. Then the lawyer reached the apartment. I leave my apartment, located at address, to my grandson, to be his sole and exclusive property. I watched my sister go rigid. Her hands, folded in her lap, clenched into fists. Her jaw tightened. She said nothing, not in that room, not in front of the lawyer and the other family members gathered, but her eyes met mine for one brief, burning moment. I knew it wasn't over. I knew my sister. She didn't accept unfavorable outcomes. She contested them. The first approach. 2 weeks after the funeral, while I was still finding grandmother's handwriting on grocery lists, still discovering her reading glasses in unexpected places, my sister called. Her tone was controlled anger disguised as concern. I recognized it from childhood, from every time she'd wanted something she knew she shouldn't ask for. "We need to talk about grandmother's will," she said. "I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't think it reflects her real wishes. She always talked about treating us equally, you know? About fairness in the family. She must have been confused when she wrote it. We should split the apartment, it's the right thing to do." I declined as gently as I could manage. Grandmother wasn't confused. She made this will 2 years ago and updated it every year. Her lawyer confirmed she was competent every single time. She knew exactly what she was doing. "I'm sorry you're disappointed, but I'm not going to divide something she specifically chose to give me." There was a pause. Then my sister's voice turned cold. "She gave it to you because you manipulated her. You were there every Sunday, whispering in her ear, poisoning her against the rest of us. You isolated her and got the reward." The accusation. I visited grandmother every Sunday for 15 years. My sister visited when she needed money or favors. Now she says I manipulated grandmother by being present. As if love were a scheme. As if showing up were a strategy. She can't imagine visiting an elderly relative without ulterior motives. That says everything about her, not about me. The accusation hit hard. Not because it had merit, it didn't, but because it reframed everything beautiful about my relationship with grandmother into something ugly. Every Sunday dinner became a strategic move. Every phone call became manipulation. Every act of love became scheming. My time with grandmother was love, not strategy. I visited because I wanted to, because those hours with her filled something in me, because she was interesting and wise and funny and made me feel known. I didn't visit to secure an inheritance. I visited because she was my grandmother and I loved her. But my sister couldn't see that. She couldn't imagine spending time with an elderly relative without ulterior motives. The concept was foreign to her. And that revelation, that she genuinely couldn't comprehend loving someone without expecting something in return, told me more about her than anything else ever had. Update 1. The escalation. Over the following weeks, my sister escalated. Emails arrived regularly now, each one detailing her case in increasingly legalistic terms. She claimed grandmother had diminished capacity. She accused me of undue influence. She insisted the will didn't reflect grandmother's true intentions. She'd consulted a lawyer, she said, or at least claimed to, who told her she had grounds to contest the will. Whether this lawyer actually existed or was simply a rhetorical device, I couldn't know. Then came the ultimatum. "I'll contest the will," she wrote. "It'll take years. Cost tens of thousands in legal fees. Even if you win, which you won't, you'll have nothing left. The apartment will be eaten up by lawyers. Is that what you want? Is the apartment worth losing everything? Just give me my half and this ends. Fair is fair." The threat was clear: pay her or suffer. It was blackmail dressed up as family negotiation. I consulted my own lawyer. His assessment was sobering but ultimately reassuring. "Her case is extremely weak," he told me. "The will was drafted by a lawyer, witnessed, notarized. Your grandmother was examined by her physician and found mentally competent within the relevant time period. There's documentation of that. There's no evidence of undue influence. You visited regularly, but others visited occasionally too. You didn't isolate her. She had a phone, had other visitors, went to appointments independently for years." He paused. "Your sister has every right to file a contest. Anyone can file. But she'll likely lose, and depending on jurisdiction, may owe your legal fees when she does. However, contests do cost money and time to defend. You need to be prepared for that." I thanked him and asked about building a defense proactively. I wanted to be ready. Update 2. The evidence. I gathered evidence like a man preparing for siege. Medical records showing grandmother's mental competency. Her physician had documented her cognitive health regularly, and the results were consistently excellent for a woman her age. The lawyer's file, which documented that grandmother specifically discussed her choices at every annual review and confirmed them verbally and in writing. Then there were the cards and letters. Grandmother wrote to me regularly, birthday cards, holiday cards, sometimes just notes she'd mail for no reason. In many of them, she explained her feelings directly. "You've been my light these past years," one said. "This apartment holds our memories, every Sunday dinner, every conversation at this kitchen table. I want it to be yours." Another, written shortly after she updated her will, "I've been thinking about what I want to leave behind, and I want you to know that everything I'm doing is deliberate. You've earned my love and my trust. Never doubt that." There were also text messages between grandmother and my sister, brief, transactional exchanges that painted their relationship clearly. Requests for money. Short replies. Long gaps between contacts. Compared to the warmth between grandmother's communications with me, the contrast was stark. If my sister wanted a fight, I would be ready. Grandmother had given me the ammunition without even knowing she was doing it. But it turned out grandmother knew exactly what she was doing. Update 3. The video. Grandmother knew. She made a video 2 months before her death specifically anticipating this challenge. She looked into the camera and said, "If anyone contests this will, know you are disrespecting my clear, deliberate decision." She protected me from beyond the grave. She knew her own granddaughter better than I did. My lawyer obtained the video from grandmother's attorney. I hadn't known it existed until he mentioned it almost casually during one of our preparation meetings. "There's also the video," he said. "What video?" He explained. 2 months before her death, when grandmother was ill but lucid, she had recorded a video statement with her lawyer present. It was specifically designed to prevent challenges to her will, to anticipate them and refute them before they could be made. I watched the video alone, in my lawyer's office, on a small laptop screen. And I wept. Grandmother looked tired in the recording. Thinner than I remembered from that time, though I hadn't wanted to see it then. But her eyes were clear, her voice steady, her words precise. "I am of sound mind," she said, looking directly into the camera. "I know exactly what I'm doing. I am leaving my apartment to my grandson because he has been my constant companion these past 15 years. My helper. My joy. He visited me every Sunday. He learned my recipes. He listened to my stories when others were too busy. He held my hand through medical appointments and never made me feel like a burden." She paused, and in that pause I could see her composing herself. "My granddaughter has visited rarely, and usually with her hand out. I don't say this with anger, I say it as fact. She has shown me who she is over many years. My grandson has shown me who he is too. I am rewarding love with love. This is my choice. I am not confused. I am not manipulated." Then she leaned forward slightly, her voice hardening. "If anyone challenges this will, and I suspect someone might, know that you are disrespecting my clear, deliberate decision. You are telling the world that I was too stupid or too weak to know my own mind. I was neither. I knew exactly what I wanted, and I put it in writing, and I am now putting it on video so there can be no doubt. Respect my wishes. That's all I ask." The video ended. I sat in silence for a long time. Grandmother had known. She had predicted exactly what my sister would do, and she had prepared for it. Even from beyond death, she was protecting me. Protecting her own wishes. Protecting the truth. Update 4. The confrontation. I shared the video with my sister. Sent her a link to a private viewing with a message that simply said, "Watch this before you file anything." She watched it. I know because my lawyer's system recorded when the link was accessed. She watched it 3 times. Then she called me. "That video proves nothing," she said, her voice shaking with barely contained fury. "She was already sick when she made it. Someone coached her. Probably you. This doesn't prove anything. It proves she was paranoid and being manipulated into protecting her manipulator." Sister said the video was coached, that grandmother was manipulated into protecting her manipulator. At that point I understood, no evidence would satisfy her. She'd decided on a narrative. Reality was irrelevant. She'd reject grandmother's own words to maintain her story. "You're listening to grandmother speak directly to you," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "She's telling you, in her own words, that this was her choice. That she wasn't confused. That she knew exactly what she was doing. How can you hear that and still claim manipulation?" "Because manipulated people don't know they're manipulated," my sister shouted. "That's the whole point. You got to her. You convinced her I was some kind of villain. You." "I didn't have to convince her of anything," I interrupted. "She saw. Every Sunday I showed up, and every Sunday you didn't. Every phone call I made, every favor I did, every hour I spent with her, she saw all of it. And she saw you too. Saw you visit 4 times a year with your hand out. Saw you check your phone during the few hours you bothered to spend with her. Saw you ask for money and then vanish until you needed more. There was silence on the line. She made her choice, I continued. Not because I whispered in her ear, but because actions have consequences. You showed her who you were. I showed her who I was. And she responded accordingly. I'm filing the contest, my sister said flatly. I've already paid the retainer. You'll hear from my lawyer. She hung up. Update 5. The battle. She threatened to drain everything in court battles. It was blackmail, pay me or suffer. But grandmother anticipated this and prepared. The video. The annual reviews. The lawyer's documentation. My sister walked into a case grandmother had already prepared to defeat. The contest was filed 2 weeks later. I received the official notification with a kind of grim satisfaction. My sister had made her choice. Now we would see it through. The case proceeded slowly. Courts are always slow, my lawyer warned me, and estate contests are slower than most. There were motions and counter-motions, document requests and depositions. My sister's lawyer, seeing our evidence, tried multiple times to negotiate a settlement. 10% of the apartment's value. 20%. 30%. I refused everything. I'm not giving her $1, I told my lawyer. Grandmother was clear. The apartment is mine. Giving my sister anything would be betraying grandmother's explicit wishes. Even to make this go away faster, my lawyer asked. Especially then. If I pay her off, she learns that threatening people works. That she can bully her way into inheritances that aren't hers. I won't teach her that lesson. And I won't disrespect grandmother by treating her carefully considered decision as something that can be negotiated away for convenience. My lawyer nodded slowly. All right. We fight then. We fought. Months passed. Legal fees accumulated. I had budgeted for this, prepared for it, accepted it as the cost of honoring grandmother's wishes. Some nights I lay awake calculating whether I was being foolish, whether the principle was worth the price. But then I would think about grandmother's face in that video, the strength in her voice as she defended her own right to choose. She had prepared this case for me. The least I could do was see it through. The resolution. 18 months after grandmother's death, the court ruled. The will was valid. Grandmother was competent. No undue influence was proven. The court ruled, will valid, grandmother competent, no undue influence. 18 months and $38,000 in legal fees to confirm what grandmother stated clearly in her own words. The system works, slowly and expensively. But it works. Grandmother's wish survived her granddaughter's greed. But the judge went further. In his ruling, he specifically cited the video evidence, noting that grandmother had specifically anticipated and rejected the exact grounds for this contest. He wrote that her statements were clear, coherent, and compelling evidence of testamentary capacity and independent decision-making. He noted that my sister's case was not merely weak, but bordered on frivolous given the quality of evidence presented by the defense. My sister's contest was dismissed. Moreover, given the strength of our evidence and the judge's assessment of the case's weakness, I was awarded partial recovery of my legal fees from my sister. $12,000. Money she doesn't have, according to what I've heard through family channels. Money I'll probably never actually collect. But the principle mattered. The court had officially recognized that her case was so weak, so contrary to obvious evidence, that she should bear some of the cost she'd imposed on me. The aftermath. Sister still tells people I stole her inheritance. But you can't steal what was never hers. Grandmother chose. Deliberately, repeatedly, clearly. My sister just couldn't accept that choices have reasons, and the reason was how we each treated the woman making the choice. My sister owes me $12,000 in court-ordered legal fees. She doesn't have it, and I'm not sure I'll ever see a cent. The apartment cost me $38,000 to defend, minus whatever I recover from her. Call it a net cost of $26,000 to protect a $165,000 inheritance from a sister who was willing to destroy everything rather than accept grandmother's choice. The math says I came out ahead. The emotional accounting is more complicated. Our relationship is destroyed. Not just strained or difficult, destroyed. We haven't spoken since the ruling except through lawyers. Family gatherings have become minefields, divided into camps. Some relatives side with me, others still by my sister's equal division is only fair argument, unable or unwilling to see that grandmother's choice was itself fair, just based on a different metric than raw equality. I've stopped defending myself to the people who've chosen her side. Those who knew grandmother, who saw our relationship, who witnessed my sister's visits and their transparent transactional nature, they don't need persuading. And those who've decided I'm a manipulator who preyed on an old woman won't be convinced by anything I say. The apartment is mine. Legally, finally, completely. Grandmother's wish was honored. The system worked, slowly and expensively, but it worked. 2 years later. I live in the apartment now. Made it my own while keeping grandmother's presence. Her favorite chair sits by the window where she always liked it, where the afternoon light falls just right for reading. Her kitchen table, scarred by decades of use, is where I eat my meals. Photos of her are throughout, on the walls, on shelves, on the small table by the door where she always kept her keys. I live in grandmother's apartment now. Her chair is still here. Her recipes are in the kitchen. Her photos are on the walls. My sister wanted to sell it, split the cash, erase the memory. I'm keeping the memory. That's what grandmother wanted. That's what I'll do. I've learned to make all her recipes now. The borscht, the dumplings, the honey cake. Sunday dinners continue, though now I invite friends instead of visiting her. We eat at her table, using her dishes, and I tell stories about her to people who never got to meet her. My sister is still bitter. Still telling anyone who'll listen that I stole her inheritance, manipulated our grandmother, cheated her out of what should have been shared equally. I've stopped trying to correct the narrative. People will believe what they want to believe, and those who matter to me know the truth. Sometimes, when I'm cooking in grandmother's kitchen or sitting in her chair, I talk to her. Not in any supernatural way. I don't believe in ghosts or spirits or any of that. Just in the way you talk to someone you loved who's gone. Telling her about my day. Asking what she'd think about some decision I'm facing. Remembering something she said that suddenly makes more sense years later. She tried to take it, Grandma, I said recently, stirring a pot of her soup recipe. You knew she would. You prepared. The video stopped her. I'm here now, like you wanted. The apartment doesn't answer. But it holds her somehow. Every corner a memory. Every recipe a conversation. The legal battle is over. The family fracture is permanent. But the home remains. The wish remains. The love remains. Some things can't be litigated away. Final reflection. My grandmother left me her apartment. Clear will, competent mind, explicit choice. My sister called it manipulation. Said grandmother was confused. Demanded half. Threatened to contest. Warned me she'd drain everything in legal battles. I said no. She filed anyway. 18 months of legal battle. $38,000 in fees. And then, the video. Grandmother, 2 months before death, looking into a camera and saying, I know exactly what I'm doing. My grandson showed up. My granddaughter showed up when she wanted something. This is my choice. If anyone challenges it, they're disrespecting my decision. She knew. She prepared. She protected me from beyond the grave. The court agreed. Will valid. No manipulation. Sister's contest dismissed. I live here now, in her apartment, with her chair and her recipes and her photos. My sister calls it stolen. But you can't steal what was given. You can't manipulate someone into loving you. You can only earn it, Sunday by Sunday, year by year. I earned this. Not through scheming but through showing up. Through caring when caring wasn't convenient. Through being present when presence was all she needed. Grandmother saw that. She rewarded it. And when her granddaughter tried to undo that reward, grandmother's own words, recorded, witnessed, preserved, stopped her. Some people think inheritance is about dividing assets. It's not. It's about continuing love. Grandmother's love lives in these walls, and no court case could ever take that. The apartment is mine. But more importantly, the memory is mine. The recipes are mine. The Sunday tradition is mine, even without her. That's what she really left me. My sister wouldn't understand. She never showed up. Broken heart victory. The apartment stays. Grandmother's wish honored. The kitchen smells like her soup, and somewhere, somehow, she knows.